Hi, I am Megamin. In this video, I'll be comparing the differences and similarities between Herrschers from Honkai Impact III and Archons from Genshin Impact. Is it just MiHoYo being lazy and copying the character design from their previous game? Or is there hidden truth to these connections? We all saw Unknown Goddess and was excited to look forward to her being a final boss kind of character. Some made theories saying she is Paimon disguised and some thought she is Lumin. But the most popular theory was, is Unknown Goddess Herrscher of Void from Honkai Impact? The more I look at this theory, the more I think it doesn't make sense. Let me explain every piece of this puzzle and let's try to see if they connect. Before that, make sure to hit that like and subscribe buttons. Disclaimer. This is how I look at things from the given information. Therefore, you might have a different opinion, but I can't help with that. And also, there is going to be spoilers from both games. Let's get observing. These guys are the acting, ruling power of the continent of Teyvat and the governors of the 7 elements. If we go into the meaning of the Archons, according to Gnosticism, Archons are considered the rulers of the physical world within the kingdom of darkness. Teyvat and Celestia are considered the kingdom of darkness in Gnostic hymn story too. Archons in Gnostic myths are appointed by Demiurge, the false god, similar to how the 7 Archons of Genshin are appointed by Celestia. But the problem is the names of the Archons in Genshin doesn't match with the Gnostic Archons, but they match with the demons in the Lesser Key of Solomon. Barbatos is the 8th Duke of Hell and Morax is the 21st demon and the President of Hell. This all makes little to no connections. This is why I don't like connecting real life myths to lore in Genshin Impact. Scratch all this nonsense. Let's see what an actual Archon in Genshin means. Before the Archon War era, much more gods lived in Teyvat, but when 7 seats opened up in Celestia, all the gods of each region went into a continent-wide Hunger Games tournament. That lasted until about 2000 years ago from the current day, to get a single Gnosis. Since Barbatos was a wind spirit, Morax was a god who manipulated geo-element, and A can use elemental powers without Gnosis. To get a Gnosis back then, the user needed to have an affinity towards that element that they are fighting for, and be really strong or smart to win the Archon War by brute force like Morax, or what Barbatos did by using others to do his dirty work. A Gnosis is a device that amplifies the power of a specific element by directly connecting to the leyline network and Celestia. Gnosis usually requires the user to have experience using that element of the Gnosis. That's why allergens are created in the first place. Usually, a Gnosis takes the element of that region and can be passed down, since we know Raiden A took Baal's Gnosis after her death, and all the other Archons except for the first 2 are said to be 2nd or 3rd gen Archons of that region and that element. The power amp given by the Gnosis is harmless to an allergen and god, since they have exposure to the same element for X amount of years. The year actually doesn't make any difference as long as you have been exposed to the leyline energy and can handle it. It's all good, because gods before the Archon War had mastery and exposure to leyline energy thousands of years before the Gnosis was a thing. At the same time, Venti just popped out of nowhere and before long got a Gnosis. But the mastery over the Gnosis may vary, since we all know Venti is the weakest and youngest 1st gen Archon with only about 2500 years of experience using the Animo power, and Zhongli is the strongest and the oldest of the 1st gen Archons with about 6000 years of experience using the Geo element. Right now, the Archon's ability to give out visions is kinda debatable, but I believe that ability is something the Gnosis does passively from the data collected from the first gen Archons. When the unused Gnosis was given out, the primary ambition of that Archon was imprinted into that Gnosis, making it automated. Maybe the first gen Archons had control over the system, but that information is hidden since one guy is bounded by stupid contracts and the other is drunk all the time. The Electrovision drought might be a reason of people misunderstanding the eternity set by Makoto. After the Shogun's announcement that she is the god of eternity 1 year ago to the world, people might have misunderstood the first Electro Archon's fleeting nature of eternity to A's perception of eternity. People say gods are connected to Celestia, but I call that BS. Yae specifically said A cut off connections to Celestia after removing the Gnosis. And I won't believe Seritza is using her Gnosis either. Since she is going up against Celestia, why would she want to keep a spy cam on her? And one more thing. I have little proof of this theory. I think the Gnosis has the ability to give the user full control over their ambition. For example, Barbatos can control freedom like how that one time he just came into Vanessa's prison cell like walking into a park. A had no use for that Gnosis since its original user's ambition was completely opposite from hers. Small disclaimer. I played Honkai like 3 years ago, but I dropped it after like a month. But I follow Island XD on his playthrough, so if I get the information wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. Okay. The name Herrscher in German translates to ruler just like Archons are rulers in Gnostic. In Honkai verse, Herrschers are considered one of the strongest forms the Honkai can manifest, and they are usually considered evil and a threat to humanity, even though in the current era most Herrschers are fighting against the Honkai. From what we know, there are only 14 Herrschers who manifested in the previous era, including the Herrscher of the End, who is like the final boss of Honkai. For those who don't know what previous era is, it is Earth 50,000 years ago from now, before the Herrscher of the End destroyed that civilization. The motive of a typical Herrscher is to carry out the will of Honkai in ending human civilizations that have advanced too far, which coincides with the whole concept of civilizations of higher advancements getting destroyed in Genshin and Gnostic stories. But there is a clear distinction between a Herrscher and an Archon. Also in the Honkai world, normal humans can't use any powers. The powers Valkyries use are also a product of experimenting with Honkai energy with humans and battle suits which are run using Honkai energy. If you are curious, Honkai aptitude is highest among females. That's why all the Valkyries and most of the Herrschers are girls, but there are males like both Welts and Herrscher of Stars. So how is a Herrscher created? When a human gets enraged about humanity, the will of Honkai or the Honkai god places a Herrscher persona in that human's head and increases negative thoughts about humans. If that human has higher Honkai resistance, with time they will undergo some kind of metamorphosis and condense a Herrscher core within them. After that, the Honkai persona will suppress the human persona while absorbing Honkai energy. When that Honkai persona wins by destroying the human, a true Herrscher is created. Note that if the human persona wins, they become a trader of Honkai that can control Honkai energy. A Herrscher can access the imaginary space, which is a weird concept, but it's where Honkai draws their power. Using this power, they can control elements like lightning, fire, rock, ice, and wind, or some crazy powers like space, death, sentience, creating stuff out of nothingness, and etc. And if they are not traders of Honkai, they can create Honkai beasts, and some can create pseudo Herrscher cores to make your friends Herrschers too. Cool. The downsides are, although they are Herrschers, they are still humans with flesh and blood. So if you kill the human body or remove the core, they are good as dead. In Genshin, to become an Archon, first you need to have a vision if living in post-war era. if in the pre-war era needed to have used that element before. So in this case, anyone could become an Archon if they have enough dedication and time. But in Honkai, it's selected by the Honkai god and only 14 seats are present that we know of. As I previously said, if the leyline power doesn't hurt the humans who are used to it, the same goes for the Gnosis. It has no will of its own, therefore there is no emotional harm done to the user. Only if you are not used to the element that is the Gnosis, it hurts the physical body. But as we all know, the Honkai persona battles constantly with the human to take over the body. Herrschers are created to kill humans, but Archons came into this position after a war with themselves to protect the mortal race under them. When an Archon steps into that position, they are already gods except for the drunk. Even the vision wielders who have a chance of becoming an Archon are ascended to Celestia as a god before becoming an Archon candidate. This means they are no longer humans and don't have a mortal body that can die easily. The one weakness of Herrscher's gone like that. Now to get into intricate details. Venti and Vendi, these two characters look awfully similar, right? But if you look closely, they are completely opposites with similar powers and design. Venti plays a major role in the whole plot of the game, being one of the original 7 and with unknown origins. But what does Vendi have to offer? Got introduced to the game just to get killed off screen. Raiden Mei and Raiden Shogun. Those two are the most closely resembled too, with the same name, same design and same element. But here the importance are flipped from the previous. Raiden Mei holds one of the main character positions, but Raiden A is one of the side characters in a much bigger picture, and the position they hold in the world is different too. One is a literal god and the other is a yandere main character. Now for the most important one, Siren and Unknown Goddess. These two look alike at first, but the personalities doesn't match. One is driven by revenge and the other is calm and preservative. Their motives doesn't match either. Siren wants to take revenge on humanity for what they did to her and her friends, but Unknown Goddess calls herself sustainer of heavenly principles, which means she is not interested in killing humans but more about preserving the world. The accent colors of their outfits doesn't match either. Siren have a purple accent thrown everywhere to indicate the Honkai, but Sustainer have more red in her. And the hierarchy on what they are on doesn't match up either. Siren is just a Herrscher that is like 2 steps above a normal human. But the Sustainer is probably above an Archon, since Raiden follows the heavenly principles, but the Sustainer governs the same heavenly principles. From that, I end my observations. I can go on and on about differences in the two world structures, even with the obvious similarities, but this video is already too long for my taste, and it's not related to the topic either. Now for a question. Who is the strongest? Herrschers or Archons? When you answer, remember, even Thanos and Infinity Stones are useless in different universes. And Superman is just a man in his own world. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, comment your favorite Herrscher or Archon, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time, eat some tuna.